Chapter 31, Unraveled Secrets. I can't believe she can sleep mid-air, Syoran muttered, half to himself, half to the unicorn. Can you? Daylight was breaking, and Sakura and he had arrived over the bustling city of Tokyo on the back of a flying unicorn. Midnight Star whinnied, shaking his head. The normally ebony black stallion had transformed into a pure snow-white unicorn with the rise of the sun, perfectly blending in with the light and sky. I mean, what if she falls off? Syoran, who was sitting behind the sleeping Sakura, eyed her with discontent as she wobbled dangerously to and fro on the unicorn's back. Giving a meaningful neigh, Midnight Star tossed its now silvery mane, his amethyst eyes twinkling. Oh, fine, replied Syoran. Hesitantly, he supported his arms around Sakura's waist. He was a little surprised when Sakura snuggled against his chest, her head neatly fit on his shoulder, and he blinked at her sleeping face for a while. She didn't realize where they were right now, or who he was. It was as if she forgot all her worries in a deep dreamland. Don't tell her, Syoran muttered when Midnight Star was guffawing at him, as if accusing him of taking advantage of Sakura since she was sleeping. Where am I? Sakura screamed, bolting upright on the unicorn sometime later. Then she realized that Syoran's arms were tightly wrapped around her waist. What are you doing? She pushed Syoran away, almost shoving him completely off Midnight Star. Sweat dropping, Syoran muttered, a little gratitude I get for keeping you in balance. Then she remembered, oh, we must be in Tokyo now. Oh, groaning, Sakura shifted her position. Her neck, all the way down her spine, ached from sleeping in such an uncomfortable position. Oh, tell me never to sleep on a horse's back mid-air again. Then patting the unicorn's head, she said, Thanks, Midnight Star. You must be tired. Wow, you turned white. Oh, how pretty. Is it another one of your special powers? Slowly, Midnight Star drifted lower down the sky, over the tall buildings. Then, fumbling inside her bag, Sakura drew out her binoculars. Holding it up to her eye, she focused down below at the streets, and she exclaimed, Oh no, they followed us all the way here. The police cars were flocking the streets, causing chaos in the morning traffic. Frowning, Sakura pondered, if I want to get anything done, I can't have the police always chasing me 24/7. But that can't be helped because I'm carrying Kaido Magician's locket, which has the microchip attached to it. How can I prevent them from tracking me with their electronic devices? Out loud, she exclaimed, Aha! The shield card. Flinging up the locket, she used the shield to guard it from outside devices. There. The police force wouldn't be able to track them through the microchip anymore. Will that work? Syoran asked. Of course, the shield card blocks all outside forces. That includes computer tracking systems. Finally, they landed behind a secluded alley, and the unicorn returned to a card. But it may take several days to finish the business here. Are you sure the shield will last that long? You've never used that card beyond an hour. Tentatively, Syoran walked into the bustling Tokyo streets. A deep frown curved upon his forehead as he remembered all the thoughts he had sorted out that previous night. It'll have to work, Sakura replied firmly. Okay, first of all, I have to find out who is filing the suit against Kaido-kun. Why? Syoran asked. Because if I find the person and make them drop charges, the police would stop chasing Kaido-kun like this. And secondly, I have to find a way to dislocate the microchip from this locket. Do you think it's that good of an idea, finding who this person is? He's supposed to be a wealthy man. And even if you find out who it is, what can you do? Syoran asked mildly. Look, I can do it by myself. If you don't think it's worth the trouble, fine. I'll go by myself. Determinedly, Sakura walked briskly down the street. Sometimes I wish you weren't so independent, but good luck, Syoran called out, walking off in the other direction. Halting, Sakura swerved around. Where do you think you're going? Sorry, I have some business to take care of here. Hate to leave you, but I'm sure you'll manage fine. Syoran told her. You always do. But she was speechless. He can't just leave me. He's the one who told me he'd stick by me. No, I don't need him. I can manage fine by myself. I can't count on other people forever. Still, half laughing at the stricken expression on Sakura's face, Syoran said, Don't worry. I'm not completely abandoning you. I'll meet up with you later on in the day. Just get along with your business. See you later. Waving, he turned around and melted into the people in the street. In disbelief, Sakura walked down the opposite direction. How could Syoran just leave her like that? He didn't tell her that he had business in Tokyo the previous day. Ooh, I hate him. I bet he's just doing this to torment me and laugh at how helpless I can be. He's the one who always told me I was stupid, incompetent card captor. Well, I'll prove that I can manage on my own. Now, where was she supposed to go to find out who's filing the suit against Kaido Magician? The police station. Syoran blinked up at the blazing summer sun with golden amber eyes. I'm sorry, Sakura. Stepping into a taxi, he said, Tokyo Police Station headquarters, please. Arriving at the gates of the police headquarters, Syoran paid the taxi driver, then walked up to the gates. Immediately, one of the guards staying in duty asked, Hey kid, what are you doing? This place is off limits. I have business here, Syoran replied. Oh, do you? Well, you can't enter, the self-confident guard answered. Sighing, Syoran fumbled inside his pocket and drew out a circular golden token, half the size of his palm, with an elaborate engravings of Chinese characters, the moon, and other intricate designs, and held it up to the guard. What's that? The guard asked, clearly confused. Frowning, another man, also dressed in a police uniform, asked, What's going on here? Standing up straight, the first guard saluted. Good morning, sir. The man who had just come was clearly a superior. This boy wanted to enter, chief. Eyeing Syoran, the officer blinked several times at the gold token. Then to the guard he said, Fool! Don't you recognize the Lee house emblem? Lee? You mean that Lee family? The Lee clan from Hong Kong. In a more cordial and polite manner to Syoran, the guard said, I apologize for not recognizing you sooner. Did you say you had business here, sir? Is it for the Lee family? Yes. I would like to speak to the person in charge of the Kaido Magician case, Syoran replied, slipping the token back into his pocket. He hated his family name, but at times it was useful. Specifically, I want to verify who the person pressing charges against the Kaido is. Yes, sir. Oh, and if a girl around my age with long brown hair and green eyes comes, send her away. Whatever you do, don't let her in. If you wish, sir, the guard replied, rather baffled. Finally. Smiling, Sakura gazed up at the tall, white Tokyo police headquarters. Her feet ached. If she had known it would be this far away, she would have taken the bus or a taxi. Yet when she had asked for directions, someone must have told her the wrong place. She had wandered around Tokyo for hours before finally reaching the right place. It was already past news. What do you want? The guard at the gate demanded. Walking up the large building gate, Sakura stammered, I have business here. More specifically, I need to talk to the person in charge of the Kaido Magician case. Eh? The guard muttered to himself, teenagers these days, what's wrong with them? Second time today about the Kaido Magician. Or maybe playing detective is in these days. To Sakura, he said, Why? Hui? Why? Sakura racked her brain. It's for my school newspaper. I have an editorial on the Kaido Magician. Really? Critically, the guard examined the girl. Long, light brown hair tied loosely with ribbons on each side of her head, startling emerald green eyes. Nope, can't let you in. Sorry. But why? Sakura asked, trying not to sound desperate. Special orders. Angrily, Sakura kicked a pebble on the sidewalk. Syoran would laugh at her when he found out she couldn't even get through the gates. She didn't stop at that. She had tried to approach the building through various methods, including the north, south, east, west gates. She even tried climbing over the walls. Nothing worked. A whole day wasted, and she had accomplished nothing. Stop thinking about that betrayer. I don't need anyone, Sakura scolded herself. And what was the chance that she'd bump into him again in this big city? She didn't even care if she ever saw him again. Syoran would be no help anyway, yet why had he acted so strangely? She gazed at her reflection on the glass window of a shop. Her hair was tangled and stuck out in all directions. Her green eyes were dull and tired. Not to mention her back ached from the weight of her bag. Her feet had blisters from walking all day, and her stomach was empty. That's my problem. I always try to sound confident and strong when inside I'm not. Sakura turned and walked around the corner. When did it turn dark? Where was she to go now? Go home? Call a friend? Her crazy, thoughtless plan landed her in the middle of nowhere. She slipped out a handphone that Tomeo had given her. Should she call her or Syoran? Hey, cute girl, you alone? A voice came from the back of an alley. Startled, Sakura stepped back. She was greeted by a group of boys who looked like high school gangsters of some sort. Oh, look, she has a handphone, another guy said. Good, mine broke last time I got in a fight. Wonder what's in her bag, the third guy said. Hey, pretty necklace. Is that a real diamond? That's none of your business, Sakura retorted. Ooh, a hot temper, eh? Will you put up a fight? It's 4-1, the last guy said. Don't worry, I'm not scared, Sakura replied coolly. Warily, she eyed the 4 young men. It'd be a pity to bruise that pretty face, wouldn't it? The same guy replied, reaching for her bag. How much money you have? Quickly, Sakura slapped his hand away and said, Get out of my way, I'm busy. And it's how much money do you have, not how many. Angrily, he rubbed his hand. I don't give about grammar, and you hit me? Well, you won't get away so easily. He raised his fist into the air, ready to bring it down. I don't think that's a very good idea, came Syoran's voice from the other side of the alley. The thugs turned around. What's your problem? You want to fight? I'm just warning you guys, that girl handled a whole gangster group in New York City, single-handed. Full-grown men, too, not a bunch of puny wimps like you, he replied, with amused amber eyes twinkling in the shadow. Shut up, Syoran, Sakura said. Why did he turn up at a moment like this? Did he expect her to be relieved? Thankful? Not a bit. What, you? One of the guys leaped out to punch Syoran. Without much thought, Syoran stepped out of the way. Humph, you scared to fight? The thug mocked. Why did you come? Sakura demanded. I told you I'd find you at the end of the day. You really wouldn't think I'd abandon you in the city, would you? Syoran asked. Well, don't think you've saved me or anything. I can manage these people by myself, Sakura replied, her emerald eyes flashing and her hands on her hips. I know. You always get yourself into the worst scrapes, but you always find a way out of them. Oh, really? Asked the thug, angry at the two for making a fool of them. He leaped out at Sakura, who deftly ducked and kicked out her foot. Another guy ran to her, and she knocked him down with her elbow, then flipped him over consecutively. She punched the third guy while slamming out a sidekick on the last person. Satisfied, she brushed her hands and walked up to Syoran. See? With an odd expression, Syoran looked behind Sakura and saw the guys collapsed on the floor. He whistled and muttered, impressive. Then he replied slyly, your left foot kicks are horrible. You haven't been practicing, have you? And your position for the flips makes it 10 times harder to knock the person over. You have to make sure your grip is right. Angrily, Sakura retorted, Sorry, it's because I had such a bad teacher. She stomped out of the alley and into the busy street. A bad teacher? Is she talking about me? Syoran asked, pointing to himself. Will you stop following me? Sakura demanded, trying to walk faster. It was complete nightfall. I'm not following you, Syoran muttered, following right behind her. Go take care of your business. I'll take care of my own. He grabbed her arm, almost making her trip over. You are my business. Slowly, Sakura looked up into his dark amber eyes. What did he mean by that? Look, I'm sorry I left you this morning. I really had to do something important, Syoran said sincerely. You're not mad because of that, are you? I told you I don't care, Sakura replied, forcing herself to smile. I'm fine on my own, really. Liar. You didn't have a good day, did you? Well, I'm tired, and my guess is you are too. What do you want to do now? Rest, sleep in a proper bed, have a hot bath. Oh, and good food, Sakura said, sighing. Well, we can think of other plans tomorrow. How about... Syoran's eyes wandered to the grand hotel structure in front of them. There, somewhere to rest. Sakura ran up to the hotel driveway. A double bedroom, please, Syoran said at the hotel lobby counter. Wow, this place is great, Sakura exclaimed, swerving around the grand hotel lobby with its elegant design. Women dressed in glamorous evening gowns and men in tuxedos sauntered about here and there. She felt very shabby in comparison. The person at the counter looked through the hotel files in the computer. Sorry, no double bedrooms available since it's the summer pick season. All the rooms are booked. What? Sakura and Syoran exclaimed, aghast. They could not imagine going out again in the dark, searching for another place to spend the night. Are there any other rooms available? Syoran asked. Let's see. Only the grand suite is available, the receptionist replied. Okay, we'll take that. Wait, what's the price? Sakura asked. When the person named the price, Sakura gawked. Per day. It's so expensive. It's okay, we'll take it. Syoran said, this is a 5-star hotel after all. But I didn't bring that much money, Sakura replied. Don't bother. Syoran slipped out his golden credit card, hoping his mother didn't get too mad. Oh, he sighed. He'd finally finished paying off his debt to his mom at that modeling job in New York. Room 603 then. Any luggage? Rest at last. Sakura snuggled into the soft, crisp, white sheets. She had never slept in a king-size bed before, and she felt like she would drown in all the pillows and blankets. Does it seem quite fair that you get the king-size bed while I get the sofa? Syoran grumbled, trying to move in a different position on the hard bed from across the room. This room is marvelous. It's practically as big as the whole apartment. It's as good as the Plaza Hotel in New York City, if not better, Sakura said, flipping on the TV, completely ignoring Syoran. The Tokyo police have lost all track of the Kaido magician today, and supposedly top-secret plan has backfired, the news broadcaster said. This is a terrible embarrassment for the Tokyo police force. Clapping, she said, Good, Kaido-kun is safe. Then her stomach grumbled. Oh, gosh, I'm starving. I've had nothing since this morning when I bought a donut in the streets. Order room service. Here's the menu, Syoran said, throwing over the menu. But it's past midnight, Sakura exclaimed. It's a 5-star hotel. They have 24-hour service. Half an hour later, Sakura was munching away happily on a club sandwich special. You sure you don't want any? Yeah, Syoran replied. Then why are you staring at me with those big round eyes like a hungry puppy? I was. Syoran's sweat dropped. It's because I admire you for being so strong, always energetic and smiling, even though inside you tremble under hardships. Hey, what are you going to do tomorrow? I'm going back to the police headquarters and I'm going to find out who's pressing charges. You couldn't even get in today, let alone meet the official in charge of the case. What's the use of going through all the trouble? We can just find a way to dislocate the microchip, then go back home. Kaido Magician can handle the rest. Isn't that more sensible? When Sakura stared back with reproachful eyes, he looked away. Oh, I hate myself for being so discouraging to her when she's trying so hard to do good deeds. Oh, why do such negative words flow out of my mouth? I don't want to do this to her. For a second, Sakura wondered how Syoran knew she couldn't pass the gates today, when she didn't even mention it before. And how could he be so uncaring about the Kaido magician? Although they hadn't known him for long, she felt some sort of strange bond and understanding with this thief. Sometime in the middle of the night, Sakura remembered looking out at the balcony of the hotel room with bleary eyes. She could catch the dim profile of Syoran gazing down at the city. His brown hair whipped in the wind, and he was deep in thought. Sakura knew that kind of expression only came on Syoran's face when he thought no one was looking. Yet she knew. The phantom escaped, he said softly without turning her direction. Did he know she was awake, watching him? She couldn't tell if his remark was towards her or to himself. Turning the other way, Sakura fell back asleep. Who cared if Syoran wasted precious sleep time? The next morning, Syoran, wake up. We really have to find who the person is filing the suit today. Come on, wake up. She shook Syoran furiously. She had business to do that day, and this time nothing was going to stop. Ugh. Groaning, Syoran turned the other direction and covered his head with his pillow. Wake up, Sakura said, snatching away the pillow from his head. Shh, your voice is hurting my head. I haven't slept in 2 days, for heaven's sake. This time, Syoran drew his blankets completely over his head. Fine, I'm going by myself. After putting on a fresh, light blue dress she had packed, Sakura stormed out of the room. This time, she was definitely going to find out some information. A while later, she stood in the front of the Tokyo Police headquarters again. How was she ever supposed to meet the head of the police department? You girl, are you here again? The young man guarding the gate asked, half chuckling. Very persistent, aren't you? Please, let me meet someone who knows about the Kaido magician case. I really need to. Sakura begged, looking up with pleading emerald eyes. Actually, I'm half inclined to let you in merely by your persistence, but I have special orders not to let you in, the guard replied. Not let me in? But why? Sakura asked, surprised. Who would do something like that? Shrugging, the guard replied, I don't know, some boy who looked around your age, brown hair, brown eyes. I didn't want to let him in, but he had the token of the Lee clan emblem. Since the Lees are an important family in Hong Kong, I had to let him in. You know him? He specifically told me to send away a girl with brown hair and green eyes, and I had to obey. An icy shiver ran through her body. Lee clan, Sakura whispered in shock. That person gave you special orders here, not to let me in? For a moment, she stood speechless. It couldn't be. There must be some mistake. Just then, a shiny black car parked in front of the police building gates. Immediately, a file of women bodyguards with sunglasses came out and lined up in front of the car. A pretty girl with long violet hair flowing down her back stepped out of the car. It took a second for her to recognize before Sakura exclaimed, Tameo-chan, what are you doing here? Sakura-chan? Tameo asked, her blue eyes reflecting surprise. I didn't know that you were in Tokyo. Things turned out that way. Briefly, in a quiet voice, Sakura explained what had happened in the past few days and how she had met Kaido Magician. She didn't explain all the details, such as how he was shot. Anyway, that's basically what happened, and I'm trying to find out who's filing the suit against him, Sakura concluded. That's why I couldn't contact you for a few days, ever since that day I met you at school, Tameo said. So, what are you doing here? Sakura asked. Me? Oh, Mother had business in Tokyo, and Tameo walked up the gateway and said to the guard, I'm Daidoji Tameo. I would like to meet the chief officer. Yes, miss, the guard said, bowing respectfully. My friend here can enter with me, Tomeo stated as she entered. But, the guard stammered. The two girls had already entered while the women bodyguards waited outside. Another officer guided them to the chief officer's office in the building. As they walked down the roomy hallway, Sakura asked, So, what's your business here again? They halted in front of a closed door at the end of the hallway. Nodding his head, the officer said, Here's the chief's room. Thank you, Tomeo said, bowing her head and smiling courteously. Then she turned around to face Sakura. Her bluish-violet eyes were grave, and her knuckles were white as she clutched the doorknob. Sakura-chan, I'm meeting my father. Slowly, she continued. He's the head of the Tokyo Police Department, and this will be the first time I've met him in several years. Your father? Sakura asked. Sheesh, what time is it? Syoran mumbled, reaching for his watch. When he saw the time, his eyes bulged out. It was way past noon. Bolting out of the sofa bed, he dressed in a fresh khaki and button-down shirt and walked out of the hotel room. Luckily, Sakura had packed his clothes before they left his apartment. Where was Sakura again? She said something about going back to the police station to find out who's filing the suit against the Kaido magician. But there was no chance that she would get in because he had made sure the guards wouldn't let her in. I'm sorry, Sakura, he thought. It's for your sake. The previous day, he'd met with the head of the police department, Daidoji-san, to confirm who was filing the suit against Kaido magician. Coincidentally, the chief officer had turned out to be Tomeo's father. Syoran saw a picture of a little girl and a police officer on his desk table, which was no doubt Daidoji-san and Tomeo. Of course, if Tomeo wanted to keep this a secret, that was not his problem. Syoran had begun to have his doubts about the whole case when Kaido magician brought up that some rich businessman was filing the suit against him. He had begun to say the name, then stated he had forgotten who he was, and Syoran knew that Kaido wasn't someone who absent-mindedly forgot important people's names, especially of people who had the power to bring him to an end. Sakura merely believed that it was Kaido's forgetfulness. Yet, Syoran knew better. He knew that Kaido was hiding something. Kaido magician had pretended to forget that name on purpose because he knew that the real truth would shock and hurt Sakura terribly. I don't know what to say, what to do. I don't know if I could face my father, Tomeo whispered with a look on her face which Sakura had never seen before. To this day, Sakura had always known Tomeo as the calm, kind, and composed girl. She never saw this timid, scared, doubtful side of her before. Sakura always had wondered about Tomeo's family, for though she knew Tomeo's mother, she'd never met or heard about her father, Daidoji-san. Sakura had figured it was one of the things that Tomeo didn't want to talk about and that her best friend would tell her one day when she was ready. I'm sorry. I didn't want you to find out, but I'm glad I can talk to you now, Tomeo said. My father left home when I was a little girl. I don't remember him too well. All I remember is that he fought with Mother a lot. Both of them were busy people. And my mother with her company, my father with leading the whole Tokyo Police Department. I contacted him occasionally through phone calls recently, and I hated him for leaving me and my mother. I didn't want to meet him. Sakura could see that her friend's face was pale, and her clenched fists were trembling, despite the serene smile playing on her lips. Putting a supportive hand on Tomeo's shoulder, Sakura said, But now, you're going to meet him. I don't know. I feel like turning back. It's not too late to just go back and not meet him. Maybe I'm being a coward, but I don't want to forgive him. I want to hate him, yet I can't. I want a supportive father to love, just like yours, Sakura. Someone who's always been there for me, and someone I can turn to depend on. Tomeo broke off and looked away. I'm sorry. I guess you never saw me like this before. I don't want to be weak, Sakura. You're always so strong. I want to be strong too. Tomeo, you're so wrong. You don't know how much I admire you. You're always so composed and calm, never wavering, never feeling so insecure like me. Your inner will is strong, Tomeo. You're the last thing but weak. Smiling genuinely, Tomeo replied, Thank you. I always knew you're the best friend I can ever have. I'm glad you're here, actually. Actually, it was Irokan's idea for me to meet Father. He said that I can't hide from the truth forever, and I have to face what's to come anyway. He told me I have to face myself and gain strength. Well, here goes nothing. Do I look okay? Of course, you look beautiful, Sakura answered. You always do. Tomeo was dressed in a pretty maroon-colored dress made of soft material and satin ribbons and a matching beret. Timidly, Tomeo knocked on the door, then opened it. A man with slick black hair sat behind a grand wooden desk, facing outside the window. Slowly, he turned around, his blue eyes opened wide in surprise as he stood up. Tomeo? For a second, Tomeo stood stiffly by the doorway. Her eyes reflected all the hurt and pain she had gone through the past years. This man, sitting in such a grand meeting room with the whole Japanese police force under his feet. This man who had left his wife and daughter at such an early age. This man who had caused so much grief for her mother, though Sonomi refused to show it. This man who was her father, who she wanted to hate. Seeing his daughter's hesitance, Daidoji-san's forehead wrinkled and his eyes reflected sorrow. What could he do to gain her trust again? He could only whisper his daughter's name. Tomeo? Tomeo's blue eyes blurred. Then she leaped over to her father's open arms with crystal tears streaming down her face. Father! Oh, Tomeo, Daidoji-san replied, his head buried into Tomeo's blackish violet hair, so similar to his own. The corner of his eye seemed to be glistening. Oh, my daughter, you've grown from a little child to a mature young lady. I feel like I hardly know you. All these years I've neglected my role as your father. Forgive me, Tomeo, forgive me. I don't care about anything in the past, Father. I'm just glad that I have a father, like everyone else. Tomeo, I really have to make up for all the lost years, don't I? From the doorway, Sakura smiled, sadly. She had never seen Tomeo cry before. In fact, Tomeo had always been so perfect as long as she could remember, yet there were hidden sides to her best friend, which she had never known before also. Oh, this is my best friend, Kinomoto Sakura, Tomeo said to her father, dragging Sakura in by the arm. Sorry for the late introduction. Kinomoto Sakura, Daidoji-san cocked an eyebrow, adjusting his tie in his formal suit. Nice to meet my daughter's best friend, Kinomoto-san. Sakura wants to find out something about the Kaido Magician case, Tomeo continued. She needs to find out who's filing the suit against the Kaido Magician. Actually, it's top secret. Strange. This is the second person asking about it in 2 days. Someone else asked also? Yesterday? Tomeo asked. Yeah, a young man from the Lee clan in Hong Kong. I figured it was his family since the thief of the night tried to steal their clan treasure, a Chinese sword, several weeks ago. I guess it didn't matter if I tell you also, Kinomoto-san, since it's probably your family matter, Daidoji-san said, crossing his legs and leaning back on his chair. What do you mean, Daidoji-san? Sakura asked, her face turning placid. Didn't you know? The person filing the suit against the Kaido Magician and providing all the extra financial aid is Kinomoto-san. Kinomoto Fujinto. Kinomoto Fujinto. Briskly, Syoran entered a university library and walked over to the computer database file. Confirming his suspicions, Syoran had found out from Daidoji-san, the head of the police force department, that the man in charge of the Kaido Magician case, that the person filing the suit against Kaido Magician was someone from the Kinomoto family, Kinomoto Fujinto, more specifically, Sakura's grandfather. Kaido Magician had pretended to forget the name on purpose because he knew that Sakura would be shocked to learn that someone of her own blood was causing Kaido all the trouble. Then she would have felt guilty and would have blamed herself for Kaido's wound and all the trouble he was facing, like she always would. Yet, that was why yesterday he had left Sakura to find out the truth on his own. He had made a tiny white lie to save her from the shock. It was bad enough that Sakura had to face so much confusion and hardship these days without her father, brother, and Kiro-chan. He didn't want her to be even more hurt. Quickly, he typed in Kinomoto Fujinto into the keyboard. Kinomoto Fujinto, president and owner of Hoshi Enterprise. In shock, Syoran gulped. The Hoshi Enterprise? That was one of the most powerful and largest business groups in Japan and had firm power internationally. The Hoshi Enterprise manufactured anything between electronics, transportation, and canned food to buildings, hotels, banks, and schools, not to mention influential government power. He knew this because one of his uncles was a businessman. This uncle was a financial genius and managed all the business and such related things of the Lee family. And thanks to him, the Lees managed to have so much power in stocks, business, and government in Hong Kong. After all, there were other aspects to the Lee family besides old traditions and special powers. His uncle's son's cousin was the computer and technological wizard of the family and taught Syoran most of the things in the field that he needed to know. This cousin was the one who programmed Syoran's laptop and downloaded all the database and such. Too bad he left his laptop back in his apartment in Tomata. It might have been useful. Syoran typed in more codes to crack the national government database system, again thanking his cousin for teaching it to him. There, more information popped up on the screen. Kinomoto Fujinto has 3 children. Kinomoto Fushika, Kinomoto Fujata, and Kinomoto Fujiko. Currently, Kinomoto Fushika is the heir to the Hoshi Enterprise and is in position right below the president, and the entire state is left under his name. So, Sakura's father, Kinomoto Fujata, was the son of the powerful and wealthy president of the Hoshi Enterprise, yet he didn't seem like one. What was he doing teaching archaeology at Seiji University then? And Syoran remembered last December, he and the rest of them had come across a haunted mansion, and there they had met the soul of Kinomoto Fujiko. So, Fujiko had been Fujata's little sister, and she had died. Did Fujata know about it? Burying his head into his hands, Syoran asked himself, how did things get so twisted? Sakura's plan was to walk up to the person filing the suit against Kaido Magician and demand him to drop the charge. Now, it wasn't as simple as that. Could she really go up to her grandfather, who she never even knew existed? Feeling a wave of dizziness, Sakura said as they walked outside the building, Kinomoto Fujinto. I must be related to him, and he's filing a suit against Kaido Magician. And I never knew I was related to anyone in the Kinomoto side of the family. Father never talked anything about his family or his past life. Why did he never tell me I had other relatives besides his mother's side of the family? Now what am I supposed to do? I can't go up to one of my relatives who probably doesn't even know I exist. If it's a complete stranger, it might have been different. Then Sakura's emerald eyes turned bitter. Syoran knew. He knew, and he didn't tell me. And he told the guards at the police station to keep me out. Why did he do this? I won't forgive him. He probably had his reasons. Well, why don't we go to the Kinomoto household? Father gave us the address. Tomeo suggested. They entered Tomeo's car, and the chauffeur drove off to the wealthy neighborhood section of Tokyo. Their mouths dropped when they arrived at the huge Victorian-style mansion. "Sorry, no visitors allowed," the maid said through the intercom. "Why won't anyone let me in anywhere?" Tomeo grumbled. Sakura grumbled to Tomeo. Are you going to go back then?" Tomeo asked. "Of course not," Sakura exclaimed. Creeping along the rose bushes, she turned to the east wing of the mansion gates. "Rope!" The rope twined around the iron gate tops. Taking a grip of the sturdy rope, Sakura shimmied up to the top, then helped Tomeo up. Then Sakura jumped over into the garden. Hesitantly, Tomeo followed, almost breaking her neck from jumping down, yet landed safely thanks to the Wendy. Seeing an open back door, Sakura entered cautiously with Tomeo. Inside, the mansion was breathtaking, with elegant mahogany wood furniture polished to utmost glossiness, and expensive textiles and paintings decorated the wall. The floor was carpeted with intricate oriental rugs, while delicate ornaments adorned the various rooms. Even Tomeo was thoroughly impressed, though she was used to luxury. Finally, they came to a small parlor room. Above the fireplace hung a large portrait of 3 people. 2 young men stood beside a seated young girl with beautiful pale golden hair. To Sakura's shock, one of the men closely resembled her father. He looked in his teens in the portrait, his smile carefree and youthful. He didn't have glasses, and that mature, knowing look on his face that she was so accustomed to was absent. Just then, a telephone ringing was heard. Jumping, Sakura looked around to see where it was coming from, to realize it was coming from her handphone. With trembling voice, she whispered, "Hello, Kinomoto Sakura speaking." She hoped with all her heart that no one in the house heard it. "Sakura, why are you whispering?" "Oni-chan, why did you call me?" Sakura exclaimed. In an accusing voice, Toya asked, "How come you didn't answer the house phones for several weeks in a row?" "I guess I was out," Sakura replied. In truth, she was staying at Shadon's house, so of course she wouldn't get the house phone. "In the middle of the night," Toya stated in disbelief. Then maybe I was deep asleep. You're the one who told me to get sufficient amount of sleep, and I'm sorry, I don't think this is the best time to talk right now. Let's see, I'll call you back later." "What are you 2 doing here?" came an old, mean voice from the doorway. "Did you enter without permission?" With heart giving a leap, Sakura quickly hung up on Toya. "Oh, that little kaiju, wait till I get back," Toya muttered to himself at the beeping of the phone. Turning around to face the door, Sakura and Tomeo sweat dropped, hanging their head guiltily. "We're sorry. I just wanted to meet Kinomoto Fujinto-san about some important matter," but Sakura stammered, looking at the ground. Great, now they were caught, just like her brother, to call at the most inconvenient time. "Did you know you can get arrested for breaking into someone's estate? Get out, you naughty little girls!" The old wrinkly woman in a crisp maid's uniform shouted. "Please don't make us leave yet. I just want to meet Kinomoto-san." And Sakura looked up pleadingly with fervent forest green eyes. For a second, the old woman looked surprised. Then slowly she walked over to Sakura and bent over, placing her bony hand on Sakura's chin, and lifted her face up. The woman looked back and forth from the portrait painting above the fireplace and at Sakura's face. Then, in a cracking, emotional voice, she exclaimed, "You're his daughter, aren't you? Fujata-sama's daughter." Trembling, Sakura nodded. Yes, ma'am. My name is Kinomoto Sakura." With brimming old eyes, the woman's wrinkly face wrinkled even more as she burst out, sobbing and squeezing Sakura into a tight hug. "To think I have come to see this day. Fujata-sama's very own beautiful daughter, healthy and blossoming, lovely young lady. Oh, the Unmaster was the most decent person in the Kinomoto family. Come, you people. This is Fujata-sama's daughter. The older servants who had served the Kinomoto household for a generation crowded around Sakura, all teary and welcoming, while the younger ones were clueless as to who Fujata was. Wait, I don't understand, Sakura said, clearly confused. You mean you don't know the story, young miss? The old woman asked. Shaking her head, Sakura asked, What story? Chuckling like a hen, clucking like a hen, the old woman stated, Well, I'm the head housekeeper of the Kinomoto household. I've been serving the Kinomoto family for more than 2 generations. You may call me Mori. Then glaring at the rest of the servants, she screeched, clearly displaying her authority. What are you all doing staying around? Get back to work! Mori continued. Well, so what do you know? Do you know that Fujata-sama is the second son of Fujinto-sama, or how he left home? Slowly, Sakura shook her head again. I didn't even know I had other relatives until today, Mori-san. Oh, what a shame. Well, I'll start at the beginning then. Let's see. Fujinto-sama is the president and owner of Hoshi Enterprise, as you can tell, filthy rich. The Hoshi Enterprise? Tomeo exclaimed. She clearly had more knowledge in the business area than most teen girls. No wonder this Kinomoto house is so luxurious. Well, Fujinto and his first wife had 2 sons, Fujika and Fujata. When they were children, it wasn't too bad. Yet as the 2 brothers became older, Fujika, the older brother, must have felt some jealousy and rivalry. It was always Fujata this, Fujata that, for he was the pride of the family. Fujata received top grades and medals at school, was number 1 in athletics, and to top that, kind-hearted and popular. Fujika always felt compared and bitter. This became worse when their mother died, because the gentle presence of the lady was always the pillar of the house. Often in his childhood, Fujika felt that their mother loved Fujata more. In ways she did, because Fujika, though he was older, was immature, jealous, and quick-tempered. Yet, all the same, the 2 brothers struck by each other despite their fights and arguments. Staring at the portrait on the wall, Sakura gazed at the smiling faces of the 2 brothers. They resembled each other closely, and though Fujika had a determinedly set mouth, his eyes were still bright, and the sense of unity in the portrait was strong. Yet, what happened? Then she gazed at the third person, the young girl with bright golden hair, distinctly different from the auburn-haired brothers, gazed back with a childish smile. Who is that girl in the picture, Mori-san? Oh, that's Kinomoto Fujiko, the angel of the family. Looking at the portrait fondly, she muttered, the only other decent person in the family besides Fujata-sama. Kinomoto Fujiko! Sakura exclaimed. Memories flooded back to her. Last winter, they had come across a haunted mansion, and she had helped clear the tragic misunderstanding between the poor soul of the girl who had died in an accident and her rich lover who was haunted by the thought that Fujiko had left him. He had loved her, even if his family didn't approve of their relationship. Yet, Sakura thought the whole reason why the young man's family didn't accept Fujiko was because she was poor. Then, she was the daughter of the president of Hoshi Enterprise. Fujiko is the daughter of Fujinto-sama, with a maid of the Kinomoto family. She's Fujika and Fujata's half-sister. Of course, Fujinto-sama recorded her in the Kinomoto family book and accepted her as a legitimate daughter. However, his second wife, a catty, snobbish woman, was against this and made life horrible for young Miss Fujiko, always sneering at her for being the daughter of a maid. In fact, only Fujata was always there to stick up for her and protect her. She was a frail, gentle child and was a lot younger than the other 2 brothers. She looked up and depended upon Fujata greatly. Eventually, the bitterness of the family grew unbearable. Fujika blamed Fujata for all his problems, and the relationship between the 2 brothers grew from love to hate. Their father, although he knew that Fujata was right, had to stick up for his elder son, since he was the heir to the Hoshi enterprise and the whole family wealth. The second wife was cruel to Fujiko, and when Fujata stood up for her, she took revenge by slyly bad-mouthing about him to his father and elder brother. The whole family atmosphere became hostile. After he graduated high school, Fujata desired to further pursue his education in archaeology. However, his father wanted him to continue to lead in business. Not to mention this, a political engagement was arranged to a daughter from another rich business family. Fujata disliked the idea that their marriage was arranged and that his whole future was chosen for him, even though the girl was a childhood friend and lover. Meanwhile, Fujika took the engagement harshly because he also loved the same girl and felt bitter that she had chose the second son and his younger brother over him, the heir of the estate and the company. Finally, something in Fujata-sama cracked. Right after graduating high school, he stated that he was leaving home and pursuing his dreams of archaeology with his full scholarship to university far from home. His father declared that if he did this, he would disown Fujata. Fujata replied he didn't care and that he would never return home again. Obviously, Fujika and his second wife were glad. However, his fiancée was heartbroken. She really loved Fujata. Fujata did love her back. However, he told her he had to move on with his life, and he could no longer stand being under the eyes of the wealthy society, playing a puppet under his father and being submissive under his brother. Young Fujiko was in despair that her beloved brother was leaving. At first, Fujata wanted to take her with him, practical as it may sound. Initially, Fujata was supposed to receive his portion of the Kinomoto wealth. However, he refused to take it, yet his father couldn't still turn away his favorite son without a penny. Therefore, Fujito-sama intended to give Fujata his mother's dowry. The first lady of the house was also a wealthy woman, and when she died, she left all her wealth under Fujata's name, because she knew what a treacherous, greedy person her first son would turn out to be. When Fujika found out that his mother had left her wealth solely to Fujata, he blew up in rage. In his childhood, he always felt bitter that his own mother loved him less than his brother. With the help of his stepmother, he made sure that Fujata left the house without a penny, and Kinomoto Fujito officially disowned Fujata from the Kinomata family, erased his name from all records, and removed all photos and pictures of him in the house, except for this portrait. Fujito-sama declared his son a disgrace to the Kinomoto household and stashed this portrait away into a room he rarely visited. Tameya watched Sakura's face turn paler and paler. None of them had ever guessed that Sakura's father had such a past. Mori continued in a cracking voice. It was hard for Fujata. He couldn't take Fujiko with him since he had no money to support her with. His first year in university was difficult, though he was on full scholarship. All his life, he was used to great wealth, luxury, servants waiting on him. There, he had to learn to cook, sew, clean, so as to keep up with studies, to maintain a scholarship. Plus, he had to take part-time jobs to pay his way through other things, such as clothing, food, books, and transportation. Nobody knows how much hardship he faced, except for me, for he made no contact with anyone else in the family except for Fujiko and me. I have nursed him in his cradle, and I've taken care of him when his mother died. In his letters to Fujiko, he only said encouraging, positive things and always told her to be strong and bear through all hardship, and someday he'd come for her and they could venture in the world together. Yet to me, he was truthful. He told me how often at nights he remembered all he had left behind. His smooth, aristocratic, rich boy's hand grew soiled and calloused from hard work. His eyesight grew worse from cramming his studies late at night with a single candle because he couldn't afford electricity. Often he was next to starved and suffered from his lost love, whom he had left behind. Once he tried to write a letter to his ex-fiancée, yet Fujika intercepted it. Fujata soon heard the news that Fujika had married the girl. This was a great shock for him, since Fujata still loved the girl and believed she would wait for him. And as the years passed by, letters from him became scarce. The last time I heard from him, he was saying he had a respectable, good job as a teacher in a town called Tomeda, and he had met the most beautiful girl of his life called Amiya Nadesco. Specifically, he said, "I know I'm not her first love, and yet she is not my very first love. Yet we are content giving our adult, mature love to each other eternally. Although she's so much younger than me, for the first time in years, I feel genuinely happy and peaceful. I think I've finally found what I went searching for years ago." With glistening eyes, Mori ended, "And I knew the kind, gentle boy I watched grow finally became a mature, wise, independent adult." Dabbing her eyes with the handkerchief and switching off her video camera, Tomeo commented, "I never knew about your father, Sakura-chan. And if my mother knew, you know how our family complained how they didn't even know where your father came from and what kind of name he had. If they knew that your father was the son and president of Hoshi Enterprise, they never would have complained so much. And if they knew what kind of hardships he faced." Sakura didn't reply as she clenched her fist tight and stared at the portrait. The 16-year-old image of her father gazed back at her with twinkling hazel brown eyes. "Mori-san, where is Kinomoto Fujito-san, my grandfather, right now?" "Fujito-sama is out of the country on a business trip with the lady of the house. However, I believe Fushika-sama is attending the Kinoshi University College Board meeting right now. Kinoshi University is mainly sponsored as well as funded by the Hoshi Enterprise. Of course, Fushika-sama doesn't care a bit about the school, yet since he's a part of its property, he must attend such seminars." Mori replied, "Thank you. It was nice to meet you, Mori-san. I'll tell father that I met you," Sakura said. Then, staring at the beautiful golden-haired girl in the portrait one last time, she asked, "Do you know what happened to Fujiko-san?" "Actually, no. After Fujata-sama left, life grew unbearable for her. The second lady treated her like dirt and scorned her for being the daughter of a maid. Her father was often away, so he couldn't defend her. Meanwhile, Fujika-sama didn't care more or less about his little half-sister. When Fujiko reached 18, the lady kicked her out of the house while Master was away. Fujiko's life was miserable. She gladly left home in search of her brother. She was forbidden to keep in touch with anyone in the family, including me. The lady gave Fujiko only enough money to survive for a year. I didn't know what happened since then and how she's living. Oh, I hope she's living happily with love and bliss. She's my real granddaughter, you know. Fujiko's mother was my own daughter. But she never knew this because the second lady kicked my daughter out of the house soon after Fujiko was born. Yet that's why I cared for Fujiko so much and loved Fujata all the more for being a true brother to little Fujiko." With a strained voice, Sakura said, "Fujiko-san is very happy now." Yes, she was happily reunited with her lover, even after death. Sakura still remembered vividly the ghost that she had met in the old mansion, and how, after the misunderstanding was cleared, Fujiko had told her, "Thank you." She would never forget the serene scene where the two lovers were reunited. "My father's happy too. Though mother is dead, my brother, my father, and me all live happily in Tomeda. He teaches archaeology at Seiju University. Plus, he got picked by the college board to give his lectures in universities all over Japan. He always wanted to do this." "Oh, thank you for telling me, young miss. Thank you, and God bless you," Mori said, clasping Sakura's slender young hands in her own wrinkled brown hands. "Sakura, are you okay?" Tomeo asked timidly as they arrived at Kinoshi University. Cheerfully, Sakura answered, "Of course I'm okay. Why wouldn't I be okay? Now, all I have to do is meet Fujiko-sama and tell him to drop charges against Kaido Magician. Either my uncle or my grandfather. It doesn't matter." "Is it as simple as that?" Tomeo questioned doubtfully. They walked towards Kinoshi University main conference room. Frowning, Sharon walked out of the university library. He had just found out that the Kinoshi University was sponsored by the Hoshi Enterprise. What a coincidence. Then his honey amber-colored eyes turned round as he caught a glimpse of two familiar figures. Quickly, he ducked behind a building on the university campus. What were Sakura and Tomeo doing here? Could it be? Did they find out about the Kinomoto family? What was Tomeo doing here? But wait, if she was Chief Officer Daidoji's daughter, Sakura must have had no problem getting the information she needed from Daidoji-san. Ugh. He slapped his forehead for his bad luck. How come Daidoji-san, of all people, had to be the head of the Japanese police force and top official on the Kaido magician case? Ugh, just his luck. Keeping mingled in the college student crowds, Syoran followed behind the two girls. Is this the right place? Tomeo asked as they came to a grand conference room with adults flocking into their seat. I think so, Sakura said. Then she recognized a tall man with auburn hair swept from his forehead and glasses walking towards the conference room. Her heart sank to her feet. Oh no. Grabbing Tomeo's arm, she ducked behind another door. What is it? My father's here. I should have thought more carefully. One of the schools my father is visiting on a seminar tour is Kanoshi University, Sakura said, peeking out of the room again. She blinked, as if she was having double vision. However, the second young man had authority and a haughty, superior air about him as he came from the opposite end of the hallway. He must be Fujika, eldest son and heir to the Hoshi enterprise, her uncle. For a second, the two men stared at each other with abrupt recognition. Then Fujika gave a harsh laughter and swept into the conference room, half knocking aside Fujata. A beautiful, dignified woman stared at Fujata with shocked eyes from a little behind, then looked away, following her husband. Adjusting his glasses and picking up his briefcase, which had dropped onto the floor, Fujata entered the room after Fujika, and Sakura glimpsed a mixture of bitterness, anger, and wistful yearning, all at once mixed in Fujata's grave eyes. Something she had never seen before. It seemed like hours before the conference ended and the people filed out of the room once more. Sakura and Tomeo groaned from crouching in the same position for so long. Different people shook hands with Fujata, congratulating him on his speech and exchanging contact numbers. Finally, they all left the hallway, leaving the two brothers facing each other for the first time in over 20 years. Looks like you managed to survive, Fushika commented in a nasty tone. Too bad. I was hoping you died. I hope you've been well, Aniki, Fujata said in a stiff, polite manner. I have been doing well until I saw your disgraceful face. Didn't Father tell you never to show your face under our roof again? Sarcastically, Fujika continued. How nice and sweet little brother to become a pathetic university professor and have the guts to come to a conference in a school sponsored by the Kinomoto family. To think, if you stayed on, I might have given you the whole Kanoshi University with a flick of my finger. After all, I get all other parts of the Hoshi enterprise. Fujika-san, please, his wife protested, placing a hand on his arm. Fujika brushed her away. Stay quiet, woman. How can someone be so cruel? Tomeo asked Sakura as they watched the scene. I would not want Kanoshi University even if I had a choice, because I wouldn't want to spend the rest of my life under your thumbs, Fujata replied in a level tone. For a moment, Fujika looked surprised at the comeback. Good, because I don't think I can bear looking at your martyr-like pretense. You make me sick. Ever since we were children, you were always the good one, the smart one, the saint of the family. What was I? The black sheep. Mother, father, Fujiko, Mori, even my wife here, your ex-fiancé, they all loved you more. Well, I loathed you. What made you so different from me? I was the eldest. I deserved more respect and admiration. Well, what did you get to gain the respect, admiration, and honor, brother? Nothing. Do you think you can gain people's respect just by your family name and wealth? No, you're no longer a spoiled child. You're an adult who's managing one of the largest business corporations in Japan. Isn't it time you knew the meaning of life? You've wasted your life expecting others to wait on you and cherish you like a god. You think that wealth can get you anything, get you anywhere. So you bought your wife with money. But does she love you? People all around you fear and look up to you. But do they truly admire you? Or are they your real friends? Or are they just attracted to your money? Fujika's face contorted hideously as he raised his fist into the air, aiming for a punch. Then dropped it down. His cruel, hollow laughter echoed down the hallway. Shut up. Ever since we were little, I couldn't stand your lectures. Just get out of my face. I don't ever want to see you again. Remember, you've brought disgrace upon the Kinomoto family name, and Father doesn't want to hear from you. Wait, just tell me, how is Fujiko now? Fujiko! Fujika said the name with disgust. How should I know? She left home years ago when she was 18. It was your fault. If you didn't leave home, she wouldn't have gone searching for you. Well, I don't care. For all I know, she's dead. For the first time, Fujata's eyes blazed with fury. His fists were clenched as if to control his anger. Finally, in a strained voice, he said, You're a nasty brute, you really are. She's your own sister. You could have looked after her. Why should I care for a daughter of a kitchen maid? Same as why should I waste my precious time associating with a runaway nobody? And how is Father? Fujata asked in a soft, strained voice. The beautiful woman replied, Oto-sama is perfectly fine. He had a stroke last summer, but he's recovered completely. Fujika added, What do you care about Father? You're not his son anymore, remember? He disowned you. Saying this, Fujika spat on the floor and stormed down the hallway, shoving his wife out of the way. Fujata gazed at his older brother with a wistful expression mixed with bitterness. The woman bowed her head in a sign of apology and followed her husband. After Fujika left, the woman turned to face Fujata with glassy eyes. Fujata. It's nice to see you again, Fujata replied. Fujata, is that all you can say to me? You just left me. I had to marry Fujika's son because my true fiancé abandoned me. Is that all I ever meant to you? The woman was dressed in a navy blue Chanel suit and had her hair neatly pinned up with diamond clips, showing great luxury, yet her eyes reflected deep sorrow. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. What is past is past. I don't mean to pressure you, and I did grow to love Fujika-san, your older brother, in my own way. He's not always this mean. He's really gentle and kind inside. It's just because deep inside he's hurt and jealous of you. Oto-sama still loves you too. My father disowned me. I'm no longer part of the Kitamoto heritage, the line of the Hoshi Enterprise. Oto-sama lives to regret disowning you. Please don't judge Fujika too harshly. As you wish. I'm glad you didn't change. Are you happy? Looking up straight into Fujata's eyes, his ex-fiancé asked, What do you think? You always knew me best. Then laughing at Fujata's stricken face, she said, Yes, I'm satisfied in my own way. If you're worried Fujika-san doesn't treat me badly, well, I hope to see you under better circumstances next time. Fujika-san will be waiting for me. Bye, Fujata. I'm glad you look fine. You haven't changed either, yet you have. You look so much more mature, wiser, and settled in a happy way. On the other side of the hallway, Sakura said, Come on, Tameo, let's leave. She stood up and smoothed her blue dress. Wait, aren't you going to speak to your father since he's here? Tameo asked. No, I don't want him to know that I found out about his past. After all, he must have enough worries without having to worry about me. I'd rather have him think I'm safe back at home. And weren't you going to talk to Kinomoto Fujika-san? I can't talk or face a person who treats my father like that, Sakura replied shortly. For a second, her eyes flicked over to the opposite side of the hallway. And I can't give Syoran for hiding such a fact from me. This isn't just any old thing. It's about me and my family. Does he think I'm a fool? Syoran's ears pricked as he strained over his hiding position to hear Sakura and Tomeo's conversation. Oh, crap. Hope she didn't see me. Syoran thought as he quickly ducked behind the hallway. Was Sakura extremely shocked about the conversation she overheard with Fujata, Fushika, and his wife? And was she really mad at him? He had to get out of the Kinoshi University campus before Sakura spotted him. Lee Syoran? Came a young man's voice. Halting with one foot in the air, he turned around and exclaimed, Tamemura-san? Why are you running like you're being chased by a four-headed monster? Tamemura Asuma, the horse racing champion, asked. Well, I kept a really important secret from Sakura and lied to her, so I think she'd be really mad. Syoran mumbled. What are you doing here, Tamemura-san? Don't you have a race coming up? I'm meeting a friend from high school who attends Kinoshi University. But to tell you the truth, Asuma glanced around and bent over to Syoran. Arima's mad at me again. Don't ask me why. She has a film shooting nearby. I'm trying to surprise her. Oh. Syoran smiled as Asuma laughed sheepishly. Then, as they came outside, Syoran leaned against the building. I told her I had no feelings for her myself, yet I'm always so worried about her. Why is it that whatever I do, I always mess things up? Is it just me? It's just you, Asuma answered. You think Arima would prefer white roses or fragrant lilies? She always liked lilies best. Oh, sorry, back to your problem. For once, why don't you turn to me like an older brother and tell me your true feelings? The reason you suffer so much is you always try to bottle up everything inside you. That's no good. It's obvious you don't dislike Sakura, yet why did you tell her you have no feelings for her? It's 'cause what you told me about your father and your mother? Are you afraid that the same thing will happen over again? Are you afraid of fate? Or do you just not have any feelings for her? Tamemura-san, do you know the real reason why? To tell you the truth, I don't believe in fate or such crap. And I don't care what happened to our parents. That's the past. What path I choose and what I want now is now. And I realized some time ago that saying Sakura means nothing to me is also a lie. Then, why did you say you didn't care for her last winter? At the pause, Asuma grew frustrated. Get on with it, boy! I'm dying from suspense. Syoran said half bitterly. I'm such a hypocrite. Anyway, it's because, oh no, she's coming this way. The first thought Syoran had was to panic and hide. Asuma took a grasp on his shoulder and said, face her like a man. It's funny. Funny how the bravest people can be the biggest cowards at times. See you around. Then he walked off, half laughing to himself, half grumbling because they couldn't finish their talk about why exactly Syoran had been so harsh to Sakura. Gaining composure, Syoran walked up to Sakura. Sakura, he began. Calmly, Sakura gazed at him with level forest green eyes. Hello. I didn't realize you had business here at Kinoshi University, Syoran. I didn't either, Syoran replied. So, how did your day go? It went fine. I found tons of information. No thanks to you, though. What's wrong with her? I was pretty sure that she'd be furious at me. I dislike this, her hiding her feelings behind a bright smile, yet I admire her all the same. Syoran stated straightforwardly. If you're mad at me, say so upright. You can demand for an explanation if you want to. Still smiling, Sakura replied, Someone I trusted actually betrayed me and helped back the important fact that my very own grandfather, who I didn't even know existed until today, was behind the Kaido magician case. Not to mention that someone actually told the people at the police headquarters to keep me out. I guess I have every right to be mad, don't I? Folding her arms, she added lightly, "But that's not my problem. I found what I needed, all the same." Syoran would rather have Sakura be mad at him and reproach him, so that he could simply hold her in his arms and tell her that he held back his knowledge just to hold her from pain, yet Sakura was completely calm and distant. It was completely frustrating. "You know what? I wish I never found out, though," Sakura said way later as they slowly walked towards the hotel. "In a way, I think I knew I was going to find out something undesirable ever since I made up my mind to get down to the case." Syoran, who had been quietly walking behind, looked up in surprise. "Did you know that my father was the second son of the wealthy president of the Hoshi Enterprise?"
"Yes."
"You must also know that my father ran away from home and gave up his luxury because he didn't want to live as a puppet under his father and brother."
Actually, I didn't know that,"
Syoran replied. He was at a loss for words. Softly, she continued, "One more burden on my back, one more secret unraveled, one more thought to think about during the blackest nights, one more, the feeling of sadness, despair, and confusion. Rather not having the knowledge is easier. Now, I know why Kaido-kun tried to keep the fact from me. How reproachful he must have felt all along. There I was, proposing to help him, when it was all because my family that he was in such a scrape.
Though innocence may be easier, there are unavoidable truths you must face someday,"
Syoran said.
Funny thing for me to say.
Swerving around to face Syoran, Sakura asked sadly, "Do you know how it feels? The father you have trusted, depended on, and loved, the image of the perfect happy man who you always respected and admired, crumbles in one day. What father must have faced? He was the second son of Hoshi Enterprise. His father disowned him. His brother scorns him. His previous fiancée married his brother. His sister was kicked out of the house and died. He left everything behind. That life of luxury and great wealth. I saw with my very own eyes how harsh my uncle was to my father, and I never knew. I was living in a picture-perfect world where I selfishly thought of father just as the man who is my father and who I can run to with my problems and ask him to hold me when I feel sad over tiny trifles. I selfishly thought that my father existed just to take care of me." There was anger in her voice as well. "You're right. I am mad at you. It was easy for you to learn all of this and push it aside, thinking so lightly that you can just keep the knowledge from me and everything will be fine. Little you knew."
"You're right. I don't even have a father, so of course I don't know how it feels,"
Syoran replied, staring at the shadowed cement pavement, then looking up with amber eyes which reflected inner pain, such that Sakura hadn't seen before. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean," Sakura began, her emerald eyes furrowing in sorrow. Oh, how thoughtless she had been.
"You're right. I thought I could just easily keep the truth from you to stop you from worrying. After all, it's not my family business, yet you still found out from Daidoji-san about Kinomoto Fujinto, your grandfather, despite my efforts to keep it from you. But I do know what pain, betrayal, and shock and confusion feels like."
Syoran stared at her with bright amber eyes which showed the naked truth of his soul.
"And don't try to stifle that feeling in you. It's no use. At the best, you'll make yourself miserable, and at the worst, you'll rot away from the inside. If you're mad, be mad. Be mad at me. It's okay."
For a second, Syoran wondered if Sakura would even be more mad if she found out that he was hiding yet another secret from her. Unable to hold the gaze, Sakura looked away. Her hand wandered to her chest where her star crystal pendant hung from its silver chain. The necklace always comforted her. To her surprise, it wasn't there. She always hung it around her neck, even when she slept, yet now it was missing. Where could she have lost it? My necklace! It's missing! Her lower lip trembled. During the past 2 days, she'd been around all over Tokyo. There was no way she could retrace her steps and find the diamond necklace that Syoran had given her for Christmas. Her emerald eyes blurred. It was her most treasured possession, yet she so carelessly lost it. My necklace. It's gone. Crouching on the floor, almost as if collapsing, Sakura whispered, I lost my necklace because of my clumsiness. I lost my most valued possession. Not only that, but it's one of the 5 Force treasures. I promised Kaido-kun to keep it safe, and you gave it to me for Christmas. You may think it's silly, but you don't know how glad I was that Christmas morning. Bending down and helping her stand up, Syoran replied, You are silly. You're more upset over a single necklace when you stood strongly, even as you learned about the Kinomoto family legacy and felt betrayed by me. It's not that, Sakura said, holding back the strain in her voice, trying not to let the tears overflow from her eyes. I know, I understand, Syoran replied, drawing Sakura close to him and stroking her hair. It's everything that piles up on top of each other, and even though you try to stand strongly, the last straw makes you topple over and collapse. There's only so much burden you can bear on your shoulders before you can't hold it anymore, but now you don't have to hold the load by yourself. I'm here. You can lean on me. I promise myself I won't cry, no matter what hardships I face, Sakura murmured. And I'm not crying. Everyone cries. Not you. Sometimes I think you have an iron mask. You can control your emotions so well. For a second, Syoran looked pensive. Then he smiled brightly. Not when it comes to you. Do you know how scared I was that you were going to be mad at me today? I am mad at you, Sakura retorted. Then why aren't you pushing me away? Syoran asked, still holding her tightly in his arms. You idiot! Sakura squirmed and tried to push Syoran away. In return, he just tightened his grip on her. She shouted, Let go! I'm mad at you! I don't even want to talk to you. Then she quieted. Thank you, though. At first I was mad at you, but it was all for me, wasn't it? I know. You didn't want me to feel extra stress or pressure. It didn't help anyway, trying to keep it a secret from me. Still. Will you forgive me then? Syoran asked in a pleasantly warm tone. In a sign of repent, I'll buy you dinner at any restaurant of your choosing tomorrow evening. Enough starving now. Mischievously, Sakura demanded, Is this a date proposal? Eh? I'm joking. Smiling softly, she asked, You didn't forget our promise on that first day of vacation then, did you? Of course not, see? I always keep my promises. I promised you that I'd buy you dinner at the most expensive 5-star restaurant and also do something fun afterwards. I'm going to keep my promise. How about that Italian restaurant across the street from our hotel? Really? That one? Tomoe-chan said it's the best in Tokyo. Wait, but we don't have time just to play around. It's only tomorrow dinner, and I promise I'll find you that necklace again. I bet you lost it when you were involved in that fight with those thugs yesterday. Yeah, I remember. I bet someone stole it then. Sakura's eyes blazed furiously. I won't forgive them. Then she stated, Promise me one more thing, Syoran. Anything. With a pause, he added, Well, almost anything. With enthusiasm, she stated, Promise me you'll teach me martial arts and fighting again, as soon as we have some leisure time, so I can make sure I know how to properly beat those people up again, if we ever meet again. Poor fools. Yeah, I can promise that. I wonder why I stopped teaching you in the first place. It was because... Sakura began softly. Well, the lessons stopped after that winter day. Syoran's amber eyes turned round. This was the first time Sakura had directly talked about that day, when he told Sakura he had no feelings for her. The silence was uncomfortable. I'm sorry.
Why? Sakura asked, smiling. Then she asked politely, will you let go of me now? Syoran realized he was still holding her in his arms. Slowly he asked, what will you do if I don't?
Then I'll call you a hypocrite.
What? He sighed, hanging his head. Then he said suddenly, you asked me if I'm making a date proposal. What if I am?
Then I'd call you a double hypocrite, Sakura stated, trying to keep the nervous pounding in her heart inconspicuous. Then laughing, she stated, I know you're not serious, Syoran. Don't joke around like that.
Sighing, Syoran dropped his arms obediently. What if I'm not joking?
Then you're a triple hypocrite.
Okay, I get your point. You're still mad at me for hiding from you about the Kinomoto Fujuteo-san, aren't you?
No. Hypocrite. Sakura stuck out her tongue, then laughed.
I'm just kidding. For a second, Syoran looked puzzled. Then he started laughing along with her.
Syoran, I never think I saw you laugh like this before. So carefree and lighthearted, like nothing else in the world mattered. At this moment, nothing does matter because you're here by my side. Even if I feel lonely, desperate, and scared, I can bear the burden as long as I can laugh and joke beside you.